Hey gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I'm Cory.
And I'm Matt, and each week this podcast will serve as a catalyst for discussion on all sorts of topics that grind our gears, rev our engines, or just need a bit more conversation.
And on this week's episode, we have a special guest with us to talk all things trucks and SUVs and a little bit of maybe rust. Tim Esterdahl from Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk is on board with us this evening to talk about his experience over this past couple of weeks and a little issue PR-wise that Ford is having.
I will say it had me scratching my head a bit when I heard that there was an all-aluminum truck that was rusting. It just didn't compute, but...
Made a little bit more clear after our
definitely.
conversation. And yes, Ford has just a little bit of a PR problem right now. We will get into that more as we bring Tim on. But as a resident GM guy, I've been having fun with this. I'm not going to lie. I've the typical found on road dead, and, they circled the problem. It's right there on the front in blue.
Go ahead. Rub it in.
I got to do it while I can, man. I got to do it while I can.
Rub it in.
My business mind it puts on, how does Ford respond to this?
Right.
Do they do it right? How does this impact sales? Because they have been the number one full-size truck for 40 plus years. You've got a very strong competitor now coming out of Ram.
Yeah.
And the Chevy and GMC twins have been nipping at the heels of Ford forever. And now's not the time for a slip up.
Right.
So it will be very interesting to see how this saga continues to play out and where Ford goes from here and how much of an advantage the other players take from this, because I remember when Ford did go all aluminum, Chevy had a field day dropping toolboxes and puncturing the beds.
I wonder how many trucks GMC or GM actually purchased
so
just to do those commercials. Like, how many beds can we ruin on this? Spend $300,000 on pickup beds.
And there were a lot of Ford people and Ram, I'm sure, poking fun at Chevy and GM for that, because when the current generation Chevy and GMC came out, or prior to them, there was a lot of conversation about, well, they're going to adopt aluminum.
Yep.
But GM did stick with the fact that there are some places you just don't put aluminum in a truck, and the bed was one of them. So for Ram and Chevy and GMC, they pretty much stuck to what are called swing panels. Anything with a hinge, aluminum. Anything else, high-strength steel.
Including that god-awful 37-way tailgate.
That they're now putting on Chevy trucks. So
you can keep it.
Yeah. It's a fun party trick, but that's enough of our opinion. Let's welcome on Tim. And we're jumping right in tonight, talking with Tim from Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. Tim, nice to have you with us.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So you have found yourself in, I don't want to necessarily throw around the word controversy, but in the middle of a little bit of a controversy with one of the best-selling vehicles in the States.
Yeah, it's not like a swirling vortex of doom or anything, but it is quite the controversy.
Yep.
And it's been a long week. I've had many conversations about it, and we'll explain what that is tonight. But it's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun. I've had to filter quite a few comments, and I've been called different names. And yeah.
So before we dive too much into what I have dubbed, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, Rustgate, we want to learn just maybe a little bit more about you, your channel, and what you're doing over there on Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk.
Yeah, so I've been a journalist now, I think, automotive journalist now, 10 years, 11 years, whatever the deal is. I started off freelance for many, many years, and then I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore because freelance, always hit or miss. And a lot of my outlets were magazines, and the magazines were closing down, and they paid the good money. So in the midst of that, we're looking at, 4 or 5 years ago now, I was actually traveling with my dad back to Nebraska. I had, long story, I sold a truck to the chief engineer for Toyota Engineering and had delivered it to his house in Michigan and was driving back to my dad. My dad was my way back. I'd press loan out there. Just it's a long story, but happened at a bar conversation. These all these things go with me. I went to the bar, this happened. Anyways, we're driving back, and I was talking to my dad about this, and I'm like, at the time, I had a creative services business where I did web design and graphic design for some nonprofits, and that was kind of where I started 15 years ago with a business. And this automotive journalism thing kind of came out of nowhere, and I kind of have grown it into something. And I wanted to do something, so I was looking around at different things I could do, and I decided to create my own outlet. And I created my own outlet for a couple reasons. First of all, I do all this freelance work, but my family can't find it because it's always here or there, over at this magazine, whatever. And so the idea was I can do like little short posts and put a link to the article. So that way I'm not like stealing the thunder from the people who bought the article, but I have a one-stop shop. You want to go see my work, that's where it's at. And then at the time I was thinking, well, I need to do something, to grow this. And so I actually started a podcast, which is going to be funny for you guys.
Nice.
The talk aspect of my name was a podcast.
Right.
And because I looked at the landscape, and at the time, Motor Trend wasn't doing any podcasts. They have a new Sean Holman's thing, Truck Talk, whatever he's doing.
Right.
TFL wasn't doing podcasts. Nobody was doing podcasts at the time. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna do a truck podcast. And then as we're driving around the road and I'm talking about it, and I'm literally doing graphic design in my passenger seat. I'm designing the logo while I'm sitting there driving, and because I'm not a great graphic designer, but I can do all right. So I literally had the website designed and launched by the time we got to the house. I'd bought the domains, I bought a microphone, everything, back to my house. And so I launched it basically on the trip. And the idea was I was going to do a podcast, wouldn't compete with the magazines I was writing for because they were doing video on magazines, and I could talk about stuff and kind of hone my skills in a different area. And as I was doing things, the magazine shut down, and I learned early on with podcasts that you have to have a marketing department and selling ads and such. And I was in sales for years before I went to college, and I just didn't want to do it. And so I realized that YouTube was growing so quickly, and I'm not like completely awful on camera. So I thought, what the hell, I'll do some YouTube videos. And that was going all right, and I was kind of doing freelance doing stuff, and then I got a notice, it's like 2 Februarys ago now, or maybe 3, from YouTube saying they're going to demonetize my channel, take away the money. And the idea was they were raising the entrance limits to get monetized. They had gone from whatever it was to now 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, and I was going to be demonetized. And I mean, I was making $10, right? But it kind of pissed me off.
Yeah.
and when I get pissed off, I either react in different ways. And so one of the ways I reacted was, all right, damn it, I'm gonna get serious at doing this, because I was traveling with Roman Micah a lot with TFL. Yeah. I was watching him do stuff, and I was like, man, nothing against Roman Micah, great presenter, but I'm like, I can do the same thing. It's not like it's rocket science. It's YouTube. I'm not doing like a live shoot from Beirut with CNN. I mean, come on, we get a little GoPro. I'm gonna talk to the GoPro. So I ended up spending the entire summer doing Fat Man on a Treadmill, where I go downstairs and watch videos and how to YouTube while I was on a treadmill. And then I was put out videos. So I put out a year. I had a year where I put out probably 300 videos without getting paid. And then all of a sudden, I got monetized. I mean, I was begging everybody. I mean, I literally went to Thanksgiving Easter, and I grabbed all the cousins' phone. I was pressing subscribe on all the phones that were sitting there. Because to get that first 1,000 is just a freaking it's a journey. So I finally got monetized, and I put all these videos out. And then the next year goes by, and I mean, the channel's growing, but it's really, and my channel story has always been it's very slow growth and subscriber count. But last year, when COVID hit, it just blew my channel apart. Like, it was awesome. Like, COVID was one of the best things that ever happened to me because people got bored of Hulu and Netflix like I do. I mean, so then you start watching something else, YouTube, you start watching YouTube, and then trucks and SUVs have never been hotter because now with the COVID, people aren't commuting to work anymore, and so they want to buy a truck for work in the house, go camping that you can do with COVID. I mean, it just changed the whole landscape.
Yeah.
And in June, it just freaking exploded. And we switched the website to a different ad provider. We did a couple of those. So, I mean, all of a sudden, I went from barely making it to making it and then some. And then I had to hire staff. And so I have 2 staff members now working for me. I have a managing editor working for me. And now I'm solo. I'm doing solo YouTube, and my staff is doing the website stuff. but it's the whole rising tide raises both ships, right? So, more website posts with my videos embedded sends more people to YouTube, and then I reference website on YouTube, which sends more people to the website, and then they both grow, and so it's been a phenomenal run, and I did not anticipate it taking off so much, but yeah, I mean it was pickup truck talk, and then I was like, well, with my experience, I knew I had to add SUV because it's too narrow. But I've always been pigeonholed into a truck and SUV guy because that's what I grew up around. I mean, I always had trucks and SUVs, and I really don't mind it. People are always like, well, why don't you expand more? And I've driven the Camrys, and I've driven the Corollas, and I've driven the Miatas, and all that kind of stuff. And what I tell people all the time is like, in automotive, especially with truck guys, if a truck guy does a review on a Camry and then does a review on an F350 dually, you start wondering, right? It's a different market. Like, you can't. If I were to start doing Corolla reviews, I'd lose credibility.
Right.
I just would. And so I've been okay being a truck only guy because honestly, that's where the market's growing. And in the auto journalism field, most journalists hate trucks.
Really?
Not these two.
Yeah.
Not these two.
Man, yeah. I love it.
I mean, I'm telling you, there's a huge part of major magazines, of major outlets that these guys don't like them. They don't stand them. They don't get. I got into almost a fist fight with a prior editor from Car and Driver. We were having drinks one night, and the conversation kind of got. He moved to Colorado and couldn't understand why everybody had so many trucks, and so he had his Porsche 911 couldn't make it up his little wee little driveway, and so we got into a little bit of a frustrating thing with this guy because it's just because I've gotten that my entire career, and so I love trucks, and I think that's one of the things that comes through my channel and my YouTube videos. People tell me is my passion for trucks comes through. Like I'm not BSing you. I love trucks. If I could be in a truck all day, I would just be in a truck all day.
Yeah.
Like my wife's CX-5 is great. I've driven all different SUVs. They're great, but I'll take a Tahoe, a Yukon. I'll take a new Mazda or even like the Hyundai little things, whatever they have. And I'd take a Ridgeline over a Corvette. That's how much truck passion goes.
Oh, wow.
Because it's just what I prefer.
It's a very controversial statement on this channel.
That's why I get in fights with people. But I mean, that's always been my passion. So my history is I'm a GM brat. I'm a GM truck brat. I was born in Wisconsin, and my dad. The story goes, my dad was working for a furniture company, and I was about ready to be born, and he didn't have enough credit to pay the hospital. So back then, you had to pay for everything like a surgery. So having a kid, you had to pay for it. You had to take out a loan or pay cash before the kid got released from the hospital. That's literally what they did. And so my dad had a friend who worked at Janesville Assembly, and he said, well, if you come to work in Janesville Assembly, it's basically an A+ on any loan you have, right? So if you're in Janesville and you're a GM dude, or GM employee, whatever you say dude, but GM employee at that time, the bank said, rubber stamped you got to get a loan. Yeah. So so the week before I was born, he started working at Janesville Assembly, and then he started working his way up, and he got pretty good at his job, and we moved to Indiana. Well, we lived outside of Columbia City, which is near Fort Wayne Assembly, where my dad worked. And then we lived there for 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden we moved to Michigan, in Flushing, Michigan, which is nearby Flint Assembly, where my dad worked. And then we moved down to a little town called Ortonville because my dad wanted to be closer to Warren Tech Center, where he finished off his career. So I mean, I was always around trucks. It was really funny when I was in my teens, my dad would get company program cars, and he always got trucks because he was on the truck side. And so like we get these press loans, and we get a week long. They drop a vehicle off our house. That's what a press loan works. If you don't know, my dad would do the same thing. And so I had experience as a teenager with press loans before I knew what the hell a press loan was.
Nice.
Because they wanted him to put miles on it so he could turn it into certified pre-owned, and they could sell these dealers wanted these vehicles. Yeah. And then he'd test them out as far as the problems or things coming up, and then he always had the newest stuff. So so I've always been around trucks, and now I live in Colorado, and now I'm in western Nebraska. I'm 20 miles from Wyoming. That's why I say western Nebraska, because Nebraska is really long and narrow. Right. It's kind of like Texas, right? So if somebody says you're from Texas, and it's like, oh no, I'm in El Paso.
Yeah. That's days away.
Right. So it's the same idea for me, and that's why I say it. But now, you go any place around here, and it's trucks all day long. And Currently, think about this. Add this up. I have the 2021 F-150 I bought for the channel for this year, and then I have my '62 Chevy C10. I actually own 3 more '60s C10s, and we have a Nissan hardbody at the farm. My father-in-law has 3 trucks at his house, including a Model T pickup. My brother just bought a brand new Denali 2500. I mean, you go to my neighborhood and everybody has a truck. I mean, it's just what it is. So I've always been around them, and it's easy to talk about them because I see them everywhere, and I talk to truck guys all the time, and I mean, they're the heart of the earth people, and so it's people are salt of earth, I should say, and they're down to earth.
You bought the 2021 Ford F150 hybrid. Your initial thoughts thus far into ownership?
So I've had it 2 months. I was very lucky to have it. I was very fortunate to have some support from Ford's upper PR team to get it through factory, because they're having all sorts of COVID-related supplier issues and parts issues, and they're just having a lot of issues. So I was very happy to get it. I had bought it on December 28th, which was awesome because that counts in the 2020 tax year.
Nice.
And if I didn't buy it, literally, I flew to I've never done this before. I flew to Detroit with my wife, and we picked it up and drove it home, sight unseen. And I literally was in the airport in Denver, called the guy in Detroit, and asked him about the financing terms because I didn't know what they were. and he's like, because I was like, I don't really care what the financing terms are. I mean, it's the worst way to buy a vehicle,
right?
But because I needed it for tax purposes, and I knew from a channel standpoint, from a business standpoint, it was the one to get, right? So last year everything delayed. The F-150 was the only one that was brand new, only one that was different. And then you take the Power Boost hybrid, whatever their marketing term for it is, and you take the 7.2 kilowatt power on board. Those were, and I have the 12-inch screen. I mean, I hit all the marks, right, for the new stuff. And so it's an XLT. It's cloth interior, which I love. Yeah. People are like, "Oh, did you get leather for $55,000?" I'm like, "You take your leather." I have leather in my '62. I hate driving in the summer. It sucks.
Yep.
So I'd much rather have my cloth, and I really like it. I really do like the truck. I have some deep GM background. I owned a Toyota Tundra for a while. We owned a Mazda. We owned a lot of Hondas.
All those C10s.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I've had, this is my first Ford, and the only brand after this I've never owned is a Ram. But I will tell you, if I didn't get that Ford, I was gonna go to town and buy a Ram. I mean, I was kind of, because from my aspect, I want to know all the brands. And one of the best things about this truck was it forced me to shop on Ford.com. It forced me to learn more about Ford. I know what the 302A high package is. Yeah. Which I had no idea what the hell that was. I mean, it's no idea. The stuff you learn shopping, click this button, click that button, whatever. So I've learned a lot about the truck. It's really interesting how the hybrid works, where it starts off in electric only mode, and so sit there, and then it kicks the engine on. And so there are times that I'll be driving 55 miles an hour and the engine kicks off, and I can just see the tach die. And it first couple times it's like, wait a minute here, but then you realize electric driving. Okay, all right, that's what's going on. It's funny because I talk about how smooth of a drive it is. It drives like a damn sedan, which again is very controversial. So those guys who want a truck, drive it like a truck, and I'm like, I own a '62. If I want to feel a truck drive, I will go drive that truck, because it's no power steering, no power brakes. Right. Buddy, that thing is a rock, right? So I'm like, but I like the fact that we drove from Michigan and to my place, which was 1,200 miles, and the next morning we had to go get our kids from the grandparents, and we got in the truck again. We weren't tired from it, I should say. A lot of times, if you've ever done this, where you do that long road trip and you get home and you're like, I can't drive that again. You drive something else, right? Because your back hurts, whatever. And I'm totally comfortable with it. It's awesome. Easy getting out. Visibility is great. The fuel economy, I've gotten 19, I've gotten 17, I've gotten 24. I mean, it's supposed to be 24, 24. I actually got really pissed off my audience, and I went and hypermiled it. If you don't know, hypermiling is where you drive as slow as you can off the line, and you keep it at, I was doing 55 and a 70. I mean, again, it was Tuesday afternoon in western Nebraska, right? So it was me and the combine, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I mean, I coasted through the cities, the little towns, and I got like 29 and 29 and a half driving it that way. Wow. And that got picked up in dozens of outlets, which created, controversy. And I had people, hey, I don't drive like that. You get down and do, and the cop pulls you over, and somebody flies behind you and takes you out. And I'm like, it was a Tuesday afternoon in western Nebraska. Right. And I literally said in the video, I don't drive this way. And So I did some other ones. I do have to do a city driving test because that's where the hybrid really shines,
Right.
is in cities, because you charge the vehicle works. It charges the engine charges the battery, and then the vehicle runs off the battery until it needs more power, and then the engine kicks on to charge the battery. So I mean, it's just seamless operation to
Yeah.
work together. So in a city environment, when you're driving 25, 35 miles an hour, you're running a lot of time off the battery. I bet you I can probably get upper 30s if I drive around town.
Wow.
But my problem is my town is 2.5 miles wide, 3 miles wide. So I think I'm literally going to do like 14 passes around town to get my, you gotta get 50. You get it. I do my highway check. I get 100, right? This is the metric these guys on YouTube have decided. That's the artificial metric, is 100 miles for fuel economy test. Okay,
Yeah.
so I do 100 miles. So I try to do 50 in town because it's going to bore me to death. But I'm going to do this test anyways. And so I mean, I love the fact my family gets in no problem. My kids get in it, and a huge fan of zone lighting. If you don't know what zone lighting is, some of the brands do this, but Ford does a great job on this. There's lights in the mirrors, lights in the front, right where you'd expect, and the chisel lamp and the light behind the tailgate. What's cool about this is on your app on your cell phone and inside the truck, you can turn on and turn off different zones as you want to. And the light on the mirrors projects out at least 15 feet.
Oh, wow.
And just really light stuff up. And so what's great about it is at night when I left like a Walmart or Menards, the truck would light up around the lighting around it. So I before I got to the truck, it sensed the proximity key, in my pocket, lights up. And then like I can't wait to go camping because you can be laying in bed in the RV, need something out of your truck, right? You can press a button, or your tent, whatever.
Right.
You can press a button, light it all up, and get out, and then you can see everything.
Nice.
Not walking into the black abyss.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, and then from a ranging standpoint, a cattle standpoint, checking on fencing, to me, this is the ultimate fence repair truck because power on board, you have the generator right there, and you have the lighting. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I remember watching the Ford reveal live at my kitchen table, taking notes, and that was the feature that stood out most to me because I was like, okay, not that I had any apprehension that they didn't know their audience, but I was like, Ford knows their audience. They really did their research on making this truck, and they put the money where it mattered because it looks like the old truck. They made some tweaks and changes, but where they really put the money was where it needed to go. And that was the ingenuity, the features, and that power on board, which seems to be a slam dunk in your opinion.
Yeah, I've powered everything with it, and it's the KISS thing, right? So it's keep it simple, stupid. You take your extension cord, whatever, you plug it in, and you press a button inside the cabin, and you're done.
Yep.
Nice.
There's no rocket science. It's not like, and Ford made a point to me that you save bed space, you don't load the generator in the back of the bed, and I'm like, that's fine, whatever. I said, but my bigger thing with that is that you don't have to worry about something else trying to start.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you guys, every spring I got to start up all my lawn equipment. I got to check all the oil. We have some ethanol or fuel out here, which I've been buying premium to avoid that. But if you ever loaded the generator up to go camping, you get to the campsite and generator to turn over.
And you spend an hour yanking on it, trying to get it to fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this it's going to work. You pull up, you plug in, you're done. I mean, that's the
awesome.
simplest thing. That makes a lot of sense.
So bringing it all home, the reason I asked you on initially was Rustgate. For those unaware, Tim, you played a little bit of a part in this because Car and Driver and some other outlets picked up your story on it. But an article was published about premature surface rust on the rear axle, differential housing, all that good stuff on the brand new 2021 Ford F150s. You went and checked yours out, noticed yours was getting the same type of, again, surface rust. I'm not one of the ones panicking over this, but I'll be sure to give you a little hard time about it. And it's an issue. It's a PR issue more than anything, is that people are now climbing under their trucks and saying, oh my gosh, it's rusty. I just bought it. I paid $60,000 for this truck. This shouldn't be. And last I checked, I could be wrong, Ford has yet to really do anything about it.
So yeah, let me give you the full story on this is that there was a story before mine in Detroit Free Press, and a gentleman in Texas had asked, he had bought a brand new limited truck and he had rust on it, and it's different in Texas, right? So your climate, that's an odd thing to say, and to see, and he just brought up the question, and so I was getting ready to play golf, I played an absurd amount of golf, but I was getting ready to play golf, and I was getting these messages from my fans sharing with me this article, and so I'd read the article, and they were like, "Do you have the same problem?" And in my golf shorts and my shoes and everything, I crawl into my truck and I see it, and I'm like, "I just bought this like 2 months ago. It's got 3,000 miles on it." So I went and played, and by the 9th hole, I told my friend, I said, "I can't play anymore." I said, it sat in my brain. It sat in my brain and sat there and sat there and sat there. I'm thinking, I grew up in Michigan, right? Rust is the enemy.
Right.
I mean, that's a big concern. And so I got home and I grabbed my GoPro, which you can't hear, but I have a GoPro in a little stand, and I grabbed it and I literally shot in my garage. I talked to my GoPro and I said, and at the time I really was pissed. And I still am a little pissed off about it. And I said, I just had this truck and I just bought it, and let me show you what's going on. So I did that. I crawled underneath the truck and I showed the surface rust. And then there's been a couple recalls, another issue. So I talked about these issues on camera, and I said, this is the issue. What I didn't anticipate was the people that said this was normal. There's a whole crowd of people out there that say this is normal, and I did not anticipate that being part of the conversation. They're saying, well, it's bare metal, it's going to rust. And I'm like, it's actually painted black. It actually the axles have paint on them. It's not bare metal. And I thought I said it fine in my video that the rear axle is still going to work. I mean, the damn thing's cast iron. You're not going to. I mean, it's going to take a lot of. It's going to sit outside the Atlantic Ocean with ocean spray salt on it for 20 years where it rusts through. I mean, this was going to happen. So I said, but my larger problem with it, and what I brought up in the video was, it's not about what I think about it. What it is, it's how the next buyer is going to see it.
Right. That's
my fundamental problem. Because now, if the guy calls me, if the gal buys it, if they call me, if they care, they're going to say that. And what goes in their mind now is what else is wrong with the truck.
Yep.
Right.
It's not me. Right. I'm not going to have this truck long enough to make a difference. It's not going to matter. It's what's going to go on the next person's mind, and also a little bit on me, reputation wise. I want to get this addressed, so people aren't going to go like, well, you had that for 6 months, you didn't care and just sold it. No, I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm not a jerk like that. I'm gonna take care of it the best I can. But so that went live, and it was a Wednesday afternoon, and just started spiking. Like the channel just started blowing apart, and the comments were just one guy said he was ashamed of me as an auto journalist because this is normal. I had guys that were like, I unsubscribed because you obviously lost all my credibility. Is you don't know what you're talking about, and I mean this is what's going on in the comments, and I'm like, but I was ready to take the video down, and I said to myself, no, I said, I'm not just a journalist, I'm an owner.
Right.
Like, this is my truck, this is my feelings on this truck.
Right.
I can't like appease the audience because their feelings got hurt.
Right.
But I've also learned my channel is that the people that agree with me don't comment. So I started looking at likes. Well, that video has like 850 likes and 100 dislikes. So from my standpoint, 8-1 agrees with me.
Yeah.
Right. And the other 100 just whenever you've done a channel or you've done podcasts, whatever, you learn quickly that your haters will always comment.
Oh yeah.
But your fans will rarely comment. Right. But your haters are always a smaller group of people. So that immediately was clear was that. And then I started getting about halfway into it, I started getting another couple comments of people saying, no, I have the same truck. I have 300 miles on rust. Guy said I had guys emailing me and they said, one guy went to a dealership, crawled underneath the truck, saw it had rust, and walked out of the dealership, went across the street, bought a Ram.
Yeah.
Dang.
And I mean, I knew I hit a chord right then and there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was laughing because the first night it had like 25,000 views, and I have 45,000 subscribers. I don't have a huge channel, but I have a growing channel.
Right.
And I just laughed because I thought, you know what? I just made 25,000 dudes or girls crawl underneath their truck and check out the differential. Like every view was one person on their back. I mean, that's how I viewed it. But then I kind of got journalist hat, and I'm also a publisher of my channel. I mean, different roles. But I said, if this is normal, let's go check out what normal is. So the next morning I was working on another video, which I literally had this Nissan Titan versus F-150 towing video I've had working for 2 weeks. and I can't publish it. I keep getting pulled away, and I can't finish it. It's done. I just edit it, and I can't get to it. And so I went to town into my dealerships, and I was on my back crawling around all these different trucks because I said, okay, if this is normal, let's check it out. And that video took off too because it was like, yeah, if you say this is normal, then I'm looking at a Toyota Tundra that's spotless. Ram trucks are spotless. I had guys message me like, I have a Ram, no problem. And then the Chevys and Fords were really having problems with this. And I had I get 4 to 5 emails a day from rear differential. People show me the rear diffs and the rear axle housing, and I get people asking me all this stuff. And the reality is the truck is fine. I have rust, surface rust, and a rear axle housing. The difficulty with that is that I live in western Nebraska, where the climate's closer to like Arizona, and there's only been one snowstorm, and I didn't drive in it. The other snowstorm was driving back from Michigan. So very, very minimal contact. And I washed the truck 10 times in January because it kept having these damn comparisons. And I had to keep clean for all these comparisons. So, the truck was like babied the first month. So, it's not on me. The other issue is that I learned early on is I had engineers emailing me. And because my channel is always going to be a smaller subscriber channel, but it's kind of, I look at it as value over views. Like it's the people that watch it really get a lot of value out of the videos. I'm not doing the big view things. And I had engineers reach out to me and they're like, that's a Dana axle and that's a bad e-coating job. We all have problems with Dana. The hangers for the mufflers hangers are it's 301 or 302 stainless steel, not 402. And it's a cheaper version of stainless steel. So they saved half a penny per truck by using that stainless steel. That's why that's rusting. The biggest issue is there's a nick underneath the frame, and it's exposed metal. And I need to get that covered up because any sort of exposed metal on the frame is a bigger issue. Right. And so, that was, I got a lot of comments from that. But then it was like, I know the drive.com, the editors follow me on Facebook, and they ran a story. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And they ran a story. And then I woke up like Thursday or Friday, and son of a gun, Car and Driver ran a story. Power Nation TV ran a story. The Drive had their story. I saw it on the homepage MSN, and I saw it on the homepage Yahoo. Now these smaller outlets are picking up the same story and they're putting it in their stories. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is a big thing. And I literally, last week, my butt was kicked because I'd gotten so worn out by the messages I was getting, the emails. That I really try hard to respond to comments. And I just had to stop at some point because I was getting hate comments, big time hate comments, challenging everything about me. And my managing editor, Jill, got called an idiot, and she really had a problem with that. So we had a lot of controversy last week. So I really was trying to kind of calm things down and just kind of relax. I did not run anything. I ran one more Ford thing because they changed something, and I just want to put something out real fast. But I really was just trying to calm everything down, calm the waters, because it's still blowing apart. I think the last week and a half has been the best March I've ever had. The views are insane, and I just got a comment today. Speaking of how Ford's reacting to this, I've been asked this a lot. Ford has not offered me any statement beyond what they initially offered, that it's a cosmetic issue, and they're leaving it at that. I got an email today from a guy who has a 2021 F150, and he saw my video, went back to the dealer, and demanded something done with his truck. And the service manager is going to go ahead and he's going to coat it for him. Wow. And so, I'm going to see. There's a controversy about different plants are having this problem versus other plants, and like Kansas City is not having a problem, but Dearborn is, and because I've had the trucks that sit outside because they're waiting for the parts, the COVID-related parts, that's why they rusted premature. There's, with any one of these things, the conspiracy theory is just going to go crazy, right? It's just, and I always found in life that the simplest answer is the right answer, and I just think Dana screwed up. I think Ford knew its customers, like Cory had said, and they wagered the customers didn't care, and that's what they're doing. And I've learned a lot. Like Toyota does a lot of work on their undercarriage to make it look really clean, because in different cultures, the salesman walks around with a mirror and shows prospective customers the underside. And I think that's just phenomenal, because I go back to the people that say, well, this is normal, and I say, well, why? Yeah. Why is it normal? Why don't you, if you're the consumer and you have all the power, why don't you demand better? Yep. Right? That's my fundamental thing. It's like, if you think it's normal, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with that point with you. But my question to you is, why? Why is it acceptable? Yeah, and it's been interesting. I don't know where it's going. I do know that I checked around for a undercoating place, and nearest one is 8 hours from me on eastern side of Nebraska because they have the Missouri River there. They have humidity. They have salt on the roads because humidity, because all that stuff. So, like, I'm probably going to buy a can of what they call fluid film, which I didn't even know existed, and spray it myself, because driving 8 hours one way plus, the funny thing is the undercoating shop's like $150 based on my truck, but it's going to probably cost me $400 in fuel, time, and hotel to get there and back, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
stay the night somewhere, and I'm like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. But I'll probably end up spraying it and covering it up, especially the frame. I want to make sure the frame is covered and take care of that rear diff, because it's like, again, it's not me. It's a person next to me that's going to do it, and also, I look at things like, if I'm shooting video, I don't want, if I'm in a car underneath,
Right.
But we have a mutual friend, Alex Dykes, Alex and Autos, and him and I, we go back and forth. Really respect him. I think he finally really respects me, because I don't back down easily,
Right.
and so I go back and forth with him quite a bit. And he pointed out, like, he had the one side. He had the one side that says, doesn't matter. It's cast iron. It's not going to be a big deal. Not an issue. And I'm like, I think the biggest problem is with that viewpoint is also the fact that the truck customers are changing.
Yeah.
The demographic is changing. The demographic used to buy skin changing. The younger people are buying it. Younger buyers demand different things. They want more technology. They want their phone to sync. They want this, that, and the other. And then you look at the average transaction price of full-size truck has grown and grown and grown. And so now the fact that you're going to say, I'm going to spend $60,000 on a truck, and rust is normal, does not compute with people
Right.
like it did
Right.
when the truck was 20,000, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, it's a changing demographic, and I just think that there's a change in the guard here. And as you get the EV trucks and you get more things going to new growth, where we're going to have the truck market's going to be segmented between EV truck owners and heavy duty truck owners, and redneck truck owners, and then the city truck owner guys who have a family, want to use family vehicle. We have I've never seen any part of any segment of an industry be so varied in the amount of customers we have, and so their customer needs are going to really change. And I do think that, I guess I do hope that shining a light on this will get Ford to rethink their approach on this.
Yeah.
Right.
And hopefully that's going to benefit everybody else. I mean, my truck won't be serviced. I don't ever see a recall or anything happen on this. It'll never be solved. I'll have to solve it myself. But I do hope that paying more attention to that stuff, that we will see an improvement for all customers. Because I'm sorry, e-coating isn't adding $1,000 to $2,000 per vehicle. E-coating is adding a half of a penny, right? It's a spray. You just got to spray it. I mean, we're kind of allowed. If we can't even spray the trucks because we don't think people care, then there's got to be something better there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when it may not be the first customer that it's really an issue with, but it's the second customer, and trying to make that sell to the second customer, because, your mind starts wondering what happened. What else have they done? Have they hot rodded it? Have they flooded it? Has it been flooded? Just myriad of different worst case scenario things pop into your head, and they all apply and can't be disproven that easily. So,
Well, and to your point too, had a conversation with Bill Taylor, who was former GM employee, several weeks ago. Talked about how Ram has spent just a little bit more on their interior per vehicle. I mean, it's pennies on the dollar per vehicle, but the quality of vehicle has brought them to the point where 3 years in a row now they've gotten Motor Trend Truck of the Year, because they have a solid quality truck, because they've invested just that little bit more to make something that's worthwhile. So, yeah, I expect to see something from Ford, at least moving forward. Probably not with this year, but at least moving forward, where they'll remedy some of those things.
bad PR, if nothing else, on the most popular vehicle in the States. So, yeah.
And to be clear, that wasn't my intention.
Right.
I had a guy went rounds to me. He's like, "You're just a Ford hater." I'm like, "I literally bought the truck. I own a Ford, now I'm a Ford troll. Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Come on."
Yeah. We could talk a long time about internet comments. A mutual friend of ours just posted about she she had posted an article on the drive about in a Miata, and they were trolling her because they were thinking she didn't understand what NA meant and were educating her on naturally aspirated when that was actually the model designation of the very first MX-5 Miata. So, yeah. There are all kinds out there. But it's been really fun being your Facebook friend and seeing you share some of the best ones on your page. So that's been a fun read each day. So thank you for that.
Sure. I always laugh because I'm like, yeah, leave your hate comment, but you know what? You watch the video.
Yep.
I got your money later. You know what I mean? There's 2.1 billion users on YouTube every hour, and those are logged in users.
Jeez.
So how many people go there that don't log in? Multiply that by 4. So you have like 8 billion users per hour on YouTube. And if I got 25 haters out of 8 billion.
Yeah.
You're doing pretty good.
Yep. That's fantastic.
All right. Well, given your story and just the deluge of comments and press from your stories, we appreciate you even more for coming on to talk Ford Rust with us. And thank you so much. We will end on a happy, fun note in a segment Matt likes to call
Random Misfire. So this is a segment where it'll give our listeners an opportunity to learn a little more about you. Some of your personality and preferences and things like that. A lot of these questions are either or a yes/no kind of a thing. And according to Cory, there's one that you can get wrong. I would disagree slightly, but we'll get with it. So random misfire. There's 8 questions because every engine should have 8 cylinders, right? So we'll jump in this. Cory and I'll go back and forth, each reading a question to you, and then we'll have some bonus content at the end, too, for our Patreon listeners. Yes. So we'll jump in. Cory, you want to kick us off?
All right. So we've joked around it long enough. I'll go ahead and ask the one question with a wrong answer. Do you name your vehicles?
Yes.
And see, he gets it right.
Well,
so
all right.
all that lead up for nothing.
See?
Any notable names or vehicles that you feel just aptly were named correctly?
I haven't named the Ford, but my 62 is named Swede, and it's a little complicated. So it's my wife's grandfather's truck. It was an old farm truck I rescued from the farm, and I put a V8 in it, and I did a little work, got it running again. And his nickname was Swede. He was like a Danish, just not Swedish at all. But his aunt had a way of just naming kids. So there was Swede, there was Wyoming Pete, who was born in Nebraska. There was Smokey, and Smokey got the nickname because he ate all the cigarette butts off the table, so they called him Smokey.
Oh, man.
So every kid had its own thing. And Esterdahl, my last name, is actually Swedish descent.
Mm-hmm.
And so my last name plus his nickname, and it's his truck,
right.
Though he's passed along, I just called it Swede. And so he's got his own Instagram, which I have fun with. It's Chevy_Swede, SWEEDE. And I make him this cranky old man who hates all the new trucks. And so I always park him next to new stuff and make fun of new trucks, and we have a good time with him. But yeah, people have asked me. I get emails with Swede crossing like signs, and people want to know about Swede. And I always got to do videos. You know, there was like about every 6 months I have a Swede video up on the channel because they're like, oh, I got to see it. I'm like, all right.
That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Do you prefer driving on road or off road?
Off road.
Okay.
The driving, you know, it's like when you talk with sports car people, right? They love being on a track.
Yeah.
Driving on the road is, you driving road. The driving off road, you just have such a more visceral experience. That's my biggest thing with driving it's the visceral experience. It's the suspension working. It's the engine working. I mean, that's the way driving should be.
Yeah. Awesome.
Same vein, a little bit more in depth. TRX or Raptor?
TRX, simple exhaust note.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I drove the new Raptor and was it 15 or 16, whatever it did, in the Borrego Springs, and I came back and Ford PRs all over me like, what did you think? And I said 2 things. I said the price is expensive, and that's going to deter people. And I said the exhaust note sucks.
Yep.
And they're like, what do you? I'm like, I don't care that I know the new Raptor is faster than the old Raptor with the V8. I understand that, but I don't care. because it sounds slower.
Yep.
And if you notice, the new Raptor came out, they made a big deal about the exhaust because, I mean, that's when you're driving that kind of truck, you want to hear that kind of truck. Like Swede is a dual exhaust. It's a 283 V8. He goes 0 to 60 in about a month and a half, right? it's a dual exhaust. I mean, he sounds cool when he does it.
That's right.
And that's what I care about.
That's right. Absolutely. As the resident Ford geek, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, and augmenting the sound doesn't make it any better.
No.
Like don't pump me something fake. Just give me the good exhaust note and leave it alone.
I will say I think they did something really smart with that truck, and I had a different take on my video on that. I think offering the Raptor the V6 again is smart because now they have the Raptor R. That's going to probably have the V8 in it.
Yes.
So now it's like, oh, now I want the R. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I think they really have stoked that fire a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. All right, manual transmission or automatic transmission?
This is going to piss people off, but I'm doing automatic.
Okay.
And the reason for that is Swede is a 4-in-the-floor transmission. And I will tell you that between here and a half mile down the street at the golf course, because again, I'm starting on the golf, it's 11 shifts.
Okay.
It's 11 shifts for me to go a half mile.
The fact that he knows that.
I'm in my 40s, and my left knee does not like 11 shifts going to the golf course. It's not a fan of that.
Right.
And so, can I drive a stick? Yeah, I drive a stick all the time. But I will tell you that the auto manuals now, where you can put it in gear and you can move around the gears, you have paddle shifters, that kind of stuff. I still can get similar, not the same,
Right.
but I still can have similar control of the vehicle. And I think a manual transmission is more of a young person's thing.
And they're not buying them. So.
I mean, it is. I mean, because every once in a while I'll go help a farmer bring in corn, and he's got some old medium duty, like a Ford 700 truck, and it's a 6-speed with the 2-speed transfer case, and I mean it's a lot of fun to drive. He goes 0 to 40 in like a month. I mean, it's just a slow driving truck because it's such a medium duty, but it's fun to drive it. But at the end of the day, I just would take an automatic.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here.
Are you gonna- Go ahead. Sorry.
Wrangler or Bronco? Wrangler or Bronco?
Well, the Bronco's going to rust. So
Oh, you have been living in that world for a while, haven't you?
I had a friend do a video. He has a big Bronco channel. He made a video up basically on mine that it would rust. It just make this. I would take the Bronco, and the reason for that, from what I understand, the Bronco, because it's been all viral. We haven't seen a damn thing.
Right.
Is the interior seat comfort. I've driven a Gladiator and a Wrangler, and I know there's avid fans of both. I'm not gonna argue with you, but I just find the seating position in the Gladiator and the Wrangler to be more upright and to be less to be more upright. Visibility is a concern, and I just find the dash to be really good. I mean, they do an amazing job in the interiors, but I just find the dash to be a little wanting. And I just think that the overall package of the Bronco and having the options and Bronco Sport, whatever, but having the 2-door and 4-door and having different choices, and I think they really allowed you to customize it quite a bit in the ordering system, or they plan to, and then we'll see what COVID-related supplies have a problem with. But I find the Wrangler to be a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun driving it. I'm getting a little older, and I don't want to be stuffed in the vehicle. I had a Geo Tracker back in like 2000s, and they talk about a small vehicle. I had that little small vehicle, and I'll take the bigger size. Thank you.
Yep. Definitely. All right. Are you a fan of more tech or less tech?
I think it depends on the tech.
Okay.
And so like zone lighting, huge fan.
Yeah.
Hybrid powertrain, Power on board, huge fan. Right? I love my 12-inch screen. It's easy to see. It's much better. But I like the biggest thing I like of the fact is that I can turn it on to night mode all the time. I have the big bright white screen that Ford loves to do. I don't like the digital dash in the limited and platinum F-150s. I think it looks cheesy as hell. And I like my mechanical gauges in my Ford. My thinking is, if the dash ever quits, I still have mechanical gauges.
Yeah.
So I'm really a mix of both. I don't like No knobs. I love knobs. Big fan of knobs. And I really don't like a lot of the new, like the GMC Hummer. I'm not a big fan of the interior. I'm not a big fan of the ribbon interior.
Yeah.
The Tesla, whatever the hell they're doing with their stuff. I don't like that stuff. It's too much tech.
Yeah.
So you got to have me, power windows, power locks. We have that stuff. Yes, we're gonna have that stuff.
Sure.
But it's like I need a little bit more than just power windows, power locks, and AC.
Yeah.
To your point on the digital dash, so I'm the resident tech nerd here on the channel, and my wife's 14 Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk has a huge helper screen in between the tach and the speedo, and the only two gauges it has on the helper screen are engine temp and fuel. And not long after we bought it used, but it only had like 18,000 miles on it. It did not have a lot. Not long after we bought it, that screen went out. It was fixed under warranty, but there was a period of time where we had no idea how much fuel was in it. And it was at that point that I was like, how on earth are we going full digital dash on so many cars?
Yeah.
And what's the backup here? What happens when that tech inevitably fails? Because tech will fail. Things fail. So
I had that in the Kia car. I was driving at some event. They made me drive this Kia car, and the rep next to me, it was all digital dash. I said, "What happens when it stops working?" He says, "Well, I'll have to get back to you on that." And that was 7 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
still nothing.
I don't think there was a good answer.
Yeah,
No, probably not. Probably not.
All right, final two questions. I'm gonna go favorite driving song.
Eastbound and down,
Yeah.
loaded up and trucking.
Love it. Love it.
My wife always gets mad at me because I always get the song in my head when I'm driving, but invariably we're heading west.
Always, yeah.
It doesn't work. It's on my phone, so every once in a while I pull it up, or if we ever go eastbound, I pull it up and play it.
Oh, of course, yeah. All right, so you've got a couple of old C10 trucks. You've got a brand new 2021 F150. Would you rather build a truck or buy a truck?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a hard question too, because there's a lot of satisfaction gained from building your truck.
Yeah.
There's a lot of satisfaction gained. There's a lot of problems building your truck and everything still works. The thing that people don't understand is they're like, I'm going to mod this, I'm going to take aftermarket part here. Well, here's the thing, aftermarket parts aren't tested nearly as much as OEM parts and stuff is done. So if I were to build a vehicle for fun, I would build it my own. If I were doing a Wrangler or something, I'd build it my own.
Yeah.
But I would buy, for family, I'd always buy an OEM vehicle, because you just can't replicate all the devices working together and things like that. And like I said, I mean, my 62, I built it myself. I'd done a dash myself, and everything works. And then all of a sudden, one of the dials doesn't work, and then because it's a wiring issue, and it's always a damn ground. It's always a ground. And so I'm always chasing one more thing to fix something else.
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, I work on them for a while, and I drive them, then I don't work on them for a while, and I drive them, and so that's just kind of what happens with that. But yeah, I would be both, but it really depends on what that vehicle's purpose. I don't understand the guys that will build their truck, lifted tires, all that kind of stuff doing to it, and then daily it. Like, okay, but you're asking a lot of all these different parts you put on.
Yeah.
You know, when I got my hybrid, people are like, "Are you going to lift it?" I'm like, no.
Why?
They're like, why not? I'm like, so hybrid is meant to get good fuel economy. Lifting trucks doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So what's the point there?
Yep.
A good percentage of trucks down here, that's exactly what they do. And the dealerships down here will even have partnerships with places that'll upfit them, and they'll have multiple sitting on the lots ready to sell, lifted, jacked up, and all that good stuff. So
You can roll it right into your financing.
yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever been to a track day with an engineer driving a new truck around a track, or not track, but off-road, and understand all the engineering that goes behind getting a truck to do certain things certain ways, you would never lift your truck ever again.
Yep.
It just wouldn't.
Well, Tim, it has been a blast having you on our podcast, talking all things trucks and SUVs with you. And for our listeners who may not, who this may be their first introduction to you and your channel, where can they find you?
I made it as easy as it possibly could because I understood my audience. But I made it as easy as I possibly could. It's pickuptrucktalk.com.
Awesome.
And it's the same on Facebook, on Twitter, we're on Pinterest if you're over there.
Okay.
Fancy.
What else we have? Oh, Jill's got a TikTok account, but you can go there if you want to. But the website's that, and if you type in Pickup Truck Talk on YouTube, you'll find it there. And everything's all linked together. It's made as easy as I possibly could.
And it was all made in a truck. So that makes it even better.
Yeah.
So,
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, it's
born in a truck on a road trip. So how much better can it get? So thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, and look forward to keeping up with you in the future.
All right, thanks, guys.
So it was an absolute blast having Tim on with us this evening. We could have talked for a couple more hours, I'm sure, just about all different things truck related. You and I are both former truck owners, looking to be future truck owners at some point.
As soon as possible.
The itch has not left us.
No.
Like I said, it was a blast of an episode. Just love sharing this kind of conversation with you, our listeners. And if you want to know more about us and what we're doing, read more about the stories that we're covering, head on over to gtgaragetalk.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at GT Garage Talk. And just learn more about us and what we're into and possibly what we're driving.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, a couple of things coming down the pike, aren't they?
Yeah, the floodgates, they may have opened, but all that just to tease you until next time. Bye.